I know in the past we talked about like, that doesn't poison pill the movie. That doesn't poison pill the movie. I really do feel like Denise Richards' performance and her character and the fact that she got cast in this movie really poison pills the movie. As much as I think as Sophie Macau, I think is how you pronounce her name.
She's French, so I always assumed it was like Marceau or
something like that, yes.
Yeah.
Her performance, fantastic. Really great.
She does great. I think Pierce does a really good job, too.
Bond and bad guy is always going to be what I fixate on because those are the important elements, and the Bond chicks are just literal cherries on top. She's my cherry pie.
But in this movie in particular, I feel like it's somebody who painted this beautiful painting and then said, hey, Denise, can you finish this? And she put her boobs in some paint and it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Woo! And that's what I feel about this movie.
That's a great way to put it. And then the action scenes is someone just dipping their fingers in the paint. And just,
going.
Yeah. Her titties, though, like the whole time, I'm worried for her physical safety. Like she's gonna trip on her own boobs, and run into the wall or something. The male equivalent would be if James Bond was running around with a boner. You'd be like, is anybody else distracted by James Bond's hard on right in your
constantly
face?
Shuffling with his waistline of his pants just gets him killed.
Why does Bond have a boner? And she's running around and she's just like, it's so distracting.
Listen, it's not even the fact that she's hot because like, as we know, like a lot of Bond girls are these gorgeous women. It's not really that as much as her performance in this film is so bad in so many parts of the movie. And I think it progressively gets worse.
But again, is it her or is it the bad writing for her?
I think it's her. I think it's her.
It's kind of hard to parse, though.
It is,
but it's her.
But I think it's her. I think a good actress can take crappy lines and make them work.
Sure.
She does an okay job when she's first introduced. And as the film progresses and we get more action-packed scenes, he's an imposter! It's so bad.
The hydrogen gas level's too high. One spark and the reactor will blow. I have to stop it.
Her stuff in the submarine is really bad.
We're safe from the radiation, as long as the reactor coolant doesn't burst. If he had gotten the plutonium rod in the reactor, we could have written off the whole city. James!
The submarine itself is a crappy way to end a movie because it's so claustrophobic. Remember, the last two movies
sucked to work on.
Yeah, the last two movies, we had GoldenEye, we had the satellite facility, there's a lot of space, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of way of sneaking around. But even when we get into the fight scenes, they're fighting in the satellite, it's all great. When we get to Tomorrow Never Dies, we're on a boat again, but this boat at least feels like it has enough space where you could hide. There's a good geography to everything. Then we get to this movie and it's really, 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 really claustrophobic. Yes, there's the stakes of like, okay, we're going to die because this boat is sinking and there's water filling up. That's great. But I guess maybe because I'm much more worried about them sinking to the bottom, that Renard putting the plutonium in the thing doesn't have me as worried for some reason. I'm just like, it doesn't, there's just a very big disconnect compared to if that scene took place with a nuclear device or something on the tower that they're at, or, you know, there could have been many other things where like maybe they were driving through Istanbul.
I can get it out over the bay.
I don't know, something. I don't think this doesn't make the movie the worst movie in the Bond list. I just don't think that. I think this is just more of me saying like, it's middle for me still. It's middle for me for still.
I get what you mean claustrophobic, but I don't think twice about, you know, oh, we're in a confined space and therefore that's bad. The claustrophobia of the ending doesn't bother me in the same way that for the prologue, I prefer everything taking place in the banker's office. And I don't want the big action scene with the Batman boat. I would rather it be that simple and not be the big Tomorrow Never Dies big dumb action movie ending. I'm fine with it just being these two guys fighting at the end. You know, they're choking each other out and he's like,
are you really gonna commit suicide for her?
You forget, I'm already dead.
Haven't you heard? So is she.
That is the silliest thing in the movie. That is probably the silliest thing. They're choking each other and they're having a whole conversation.
Bond's like this, And Renard's like,
It's like,
Renard's like still speaking just fine, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That might be the one payoff for the whole feeling pain, not feeling pain thing. You got Bond there, clearly feeling the choking pain, and then Renard's talking normal. Like, I guess that works. That whole storyline climaxed with these two knuckleheads choking each other out. Haven't you heard? So is she. I like that moment. And then when he freaks out.
Yeah, when he freaks out, that's good.
You're lying.
But everything else about that fight scene is weak to me. Like,
I think, Nance, going back to what you were saying, the shoulder thing should have paid off and the super strength should have paid off. Instead, what you get is...
Welcome to my nuclear family.
Which, again, is stupid.
I thought the writers were like, oh, this is so clever. I want to put this in a movie so bad. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, quick. We're all spitballing. We're in the writer's room. What are some jokes that have to do with nuclear?
Welcome to my nuclear family.
That's a thing, right? No, that doesn't make any. There was no
it's so
setup
out of
or
it's
punchline
so
to that.
out of place in that whole scene too. It just feels so weird. It's like
terrible.
we need something cool to say here. Let's say that.
And it's not cool at all.
No, it's not.
I'm okay with the claustrophobia and the simple quality of it. Everything that happens in the sub, I'm okay with, other than that was the perfect time to conclude the shoulder and super strength narratives and have those drive the ending. The only other exception maybe would be the moment that Bond makes the sub dive, as opposed to he's in the middle of a struggle and they run into it. Because remember, Bond is a Navy commander. You'd think he would know a little better.
So we're going up then.
Slight miscalculation.
You know, like we talked about in other films about how like a lot of times it's the villain's hubris that gets the best of him as far as like his special strength. Like Dr. No, he had these steel hands and like it gets the best of him or whatever. In this movie, it's like you would expect that to be a thing, but it's not.
Like maybe somehow he needs that to be able to take the radiation he's exposed to when putting the rod in. Or like
that,
something
oh my God,
where
like, Nance, yes, that would have been awesome if as he was feeding in the plutonium, his hands were melting. And he couldn't even feel it. And even if it wasn't even the radiation, what if it was just massive amounts of heat from holding that rod and he's just...
Here you go.
How cool would that have been? And then on the other side, you have him squeezing Bond's shoulder and Bond is putty in his hands. Bond wants to fight back, but he can't because his shoulder is... Meanwhile, his other hand is melting because he's feeding it into the reactor. And then at that point, Bond is completely helpless, and what they should have done to make us like Christmas Jones more is have her do the science thing, where she grabs the gas thing and goes up, and then she rescues Bond. That would have been perfect, but instead, Bond somehow knows to feed the hydrogen gas back into the thing, and it'll shoot out. Like, that's something that Christmas would have known.
You're the scientist, you tell me.
I guess not. Now suddenly Bond's the nuclear physicist. You literally had one job this entire time, Toots. Instead, she just lays there helplessly watching Bond do what she should have been doing. What a wasted opportunity for her to do some science to save Bond in exchange for him having saved her.
James!
Thought I'd forgotten you, eh?
I rescued you for 2 reasons. To help me take down the bad guy, and then afterwards you'd my and then I'd you dumb bitch. Like I said, I'm totally okay with it being claustrophobic and simple and small as long as you're doing exactly what we just laid out.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, but I would want like a Red Gramp fight scene. That's so much better than what we got. They're just like in a wet, slippery environment.
That's what I also mean by like the environment. I think for the end of the film doesn't really work. And again, that is something that could have been as simple as the art direction, where they decided like this is what the thing's going to look like, and this is how that's going to play out. And that's as simple as the director saying, no, I want something different. I want it to look like this. So that when we do the fight scene, it plays out a little bit better, or it's a little bit more interesting of a fight. Yep. This is why I'm saying I think that the movie just needed a better storyteller behind it, even though that he succeeds in the areas that I think they were trying to like hit those notes. I think that the notes that it needed to, and I think most Bond films do, if I'm being very frank, they need to hit that action movie beats that like, yeah, as much as people, it's like, well, like much as like you were saying, those are the things that bore you, but like, that's why most people are here to watch the movie. They want to see the action. They want to see the fun bullshit Batman boat chase. And granted, yeah, they could have written the Batman boat chase better as far as how it fits into the plot, but it's still one of the more entertaining pieces of the film by far. Like I remember, like that's one of the things that sticks out to me when I think of this movie is like, oh yeah, that's the one with the cool boat chase in the beginning. And then I kind of was like, this is the one that ends in the submarine. Yeah, this is the one that ends in the submarine.